how to daily drive an old school muscle car. Before you can get your Class A muscle car on the road, it needs to be roadworthy. A couple of things to do to make it roadworthy would be clean the fuel system. Whether it be put a new gas tank in or clean the old one, it needs to be clean. Just as important as fuel is brakes. You need to make sure your car can stop. So I would suggest putting a new master cylinder, new lines. Just make sure that everything in your brake system is working properly, mechanically sound, and can stop. So another thing to consider when you're getting your car ready to drive on the road is your ignition system. The ignition system is probably going to be a point style system. If you choose to run that, I would say at the very least clean the points, put a new condenser, new coil, probably a new rotor and cap, and new plug wires and spark plugs. This car has a electronic ignition. I would suggest that if I was going to daily drive a muscle car, but you can use the points, and I daily drove it with points for a little while. Another thing is the cooling system. On this car, I'm running a bigger radiator and high flow water pump and all that. It's way overkill, but I never have to worry. You don't have to do that. You could run the stock radiator, stock water pump and all that, but just make sure it's all clean and works properly, because the biggest thing I see with people on the side of the road with old cars at shows and whatnot is they're overheated. So cooling system is a big one. And lastly, the electrical system in these cars is not the best. I would just check over everything and make sure that bird's nest of wires under the dash is not going to burn your classic muscle car to the ground. Some people like to put bias ply tires on their old car because that's what these cars came with, and it looks original when you put the old polyglass bias ply tires on it. I wouldn't suggest that because they don't perform as well as radial tires perform. If you're just going to be babying it and barely driving it, yeah, that's fine, but driving it every day in the rain and going around turns at higher speeds that we do today in today's world, it's probably not the best idea. Another thing to consider would be your suspension system. I put new shocks on this and new polymer bushings. That makes the car a little tighter, and I found that almost every bushing I replaced was worn out or just completely gone. So it's a good idea to look at all the bushings in your car and make sure that they're there and they're sound before you get out on the road, because it's very hard to control if everything is moving around and you can't predict what it's going to do. To cope with today's high highway speeds and interstate speeds, I would suggest putting an overdrive transmission in it as well. You can get by with a non-overdrive transmission if you use really high rear end gears, like a 273 or 3-to-1 rear end gear with larger tires, and it's not spinning all that fast. But overdrive transmission is the best. It also helps with your MPG. This car has a T5 in it, which is a 0.67 overdrive in this model, and the MPG is almost 20 miles to the gallon, so it's really not that bad to drive. The thing about before you get on the road is know the sounds that your car makes. So as you drive it, you're going to learn the sounds and creaks and things that it does, and it's good to know those and know what's not a good sound, like fan hitting fan shroud or brake caliper coming off or something like that. To go along with that, you need to have a working mechanical knowledge of vehicles, which if you've made it to the daily driver stage, you should have a good mechanical knowledge. Also, you need to pay attention to the road. So like riding a motorcycle or anything else, you need to watch for other people pulling out in front of you. You need to watch for wet spots. You need to watch for trucks that are doing 90 on a road they're supposed to be doing 50. All these things don't mean a whole lot in a normal car with ABS and all these things, but you hit a wet spot in a car like this in a turn, it can lose traction and you could be out of your precious muscle car. Another thing to think about when you're watching the road and everything else is keep keep an eye on your gauges. Have gauges. You need oil pressure gauge, temp gauge, voltmeter, things like that. They can tell you, oh, I don't have 12 volts, my alternator's not working, or oh, my oil pressure's at 20. I either have an LS or a bad oil pump or a stone rod bearing. One thing you need to be thinking about when you're buying parts for your vehicle is buying quality parts. That would be like Spicer U-joints and Velcro gaskets and things of that nature. If you buy low quality stuff, it will work for a little while, but I've personally seen it usually doesn't last as long as a quality part would, and then you get stranded over something that you could pay a little more money for and been much better off in the long run. Another thing that I've ran into, and I know Nick has ran into, is front windshields. Old windshields, and every windshield is 2 layers with a layer of plastic in between, and that seems to degrade over time, and it'll get foggy in between the layers. So it's a good idea to put a new windshield in if you're going to be driving it at night and with oncoming headlights and rain and situations like that. It's just a good safety precaution to have. One thing a lot of people don't think about, and I didn't think about when I started daily driving my car, is weather stripping. The old rubber weather stripping in these cars is usually degraded pretty bad, and mine would leak around the windows and the door windows and all that when I was in a rainstorm. It gets aggravating after a while. So another thing to think about is weather stripping. Also, my mirrors, this is a new mirror and that was a new mirror, they were really cloudy and I couldn't hardly see what was going on when I was driving, and that made a huge difference on my confidence driving the car when I had mirrors and I knew my surroundings a whole lot better. For safety measures, I would suggest new lights and tail lights, new tail lights, and turn signals. Make sure all these work properly. It's a danger to you and other people if you have old headlights and old tail lights and turn signals that don't work, things of that nature. People can't see you on the road at night or in rain or anything like that. And the last thing that we want as a muscle car community is to be tainted with all these people getting into wrecks or not having the proper safety gear. One thing you need to be ready for when you drive your muscle car is you're going to get a lot of people talking to you. I enjoy this. I love every minute of it. If I go to a gas station or go to a show or to Walmart or anywhere, I've had people that were asleep on the concrete next to my car waiting to talk to me when I walk back out of restaurants and stuff. Really, to me, it's an honor that people like my car that much that they want to talk to me about it. But you need to be ready to talk to people and just understand that when you go places, it might take a little longer because there'll be people ready to talk to you about your car. That's really the point of daily driving a muscle car, is you need to have fun. You need to have something that you can walk outside, crank up, and it puts a smile on your face. And it does that day in and day out. It's just makes your day better every time you get in it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And we're going to be making more of these videos in the future, so see y'all.